The Sports Source is brought to you by Fast Frame. Turn your memorabilia into a work of art.
This is The Sports Source, presented by Bill Hotz and Associates, and by Renewal by Andersen, with your host, John Pennington.
Good Sunday morning and welcome into the Sports Source presented by Renewal by Andersen. We're happy to have you with us today. We've got a lot to cover, obviously. Tennessee loses in the NCAA tournament. We'll break down why and how that happened. We'll look forward to next year. What do they need to work on to improve for next season? We'll start our spring preview or spring practice preview because Jeremy Pruitt's group about to get ready over there. We'll do a lot of forward thinking in terms of the Tennessee football program, and we'll also talk about the Lady Vols game coming up today at 2 o'clock. So lots of stuff to cover. Let's dive right into it. First segment of our program brought to you by Renewal by Andersen, and right now it's their slam dunk savings on windows throughout the month of March. You see it right there. Buy one window, get one 30% off, plus upgrade to TrueScene screens for free, and it's all with no money down and no interest payments for a full year. You're not going to find better windows and doors anywhere in the United States than you will at Renewal by Andersen right here in Knoxville. Visit rbaknoxville.com or call them 299-6350 this week. Do me a favor. Give those guys a shout. You're going to be very impressed by what you see. Renewal by Andersen. All right. I want to welcome in the first group of panelists we have today. Mark Pancrat's always in as our basketball guy. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Jimmy Himes, Mike Strange, Chuck Cavaleras. Gentlemen, thank you one and all. Tennessee loses a heartbreaker to Loyola Chicago, 63-62. Your number two choice. You would have been a Loyola Chicago Rambler if you hadn't gone to Bruce Pearl and Wisconsin-Milwaukee.
That's right.
Tennessee loses 63-62 to Loyola Chicago in what turns out to be a wide-open South region. That makes it tough. Tennessee was 22-1 going into that game, holding opponents under 60 to 67 points or fewer. Lost yesterday. And UT was undefeated against, we can go ahead and put up the graphic here, UT was undefeated against red flag teams that had, 3 red flags in the system we showed you last week. They were actually undefeated after crushing Wright State, who also fit our formula. They were 15-0 against teams that had 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4 red flags. Well, 3 of the Vols' advantages over Loyola Chicago were height-related stats, and that changed before the game. Kyle Alexander didn't play, and that was a big loss. Right at tip-off on Twitter, I put, with Alexander out, the landscape changes a bit. On paper, Loyola's not not great on the glass, and not a team that should topple UT. But they can shoot the lights out, and they did, 50%. They should push the tempo. They really didn't have to. Will rebounding become an issue without Alexander? And it did. Let's take a look. The numbers kind of told the story without your big man in there. Loyola gets the win. I think Alexander would have been good for 2 points. He averaged 6 points and 6 boards a game against a schedule that featured a lot bigger teams than Loyola. So you got to think that he would have helped in some way there. Also, when you look at it, Tennessee had to go smaller, and that led to more threes going up when you got more guards in the game. And that led to longer rebounds, which also negates an advantage there. Tennessee loses the rebounding advantage, and no one would have projected that. Before the game, I don't think anyone would have said, yeah, Tennessee will jack up 25 threes, more than Loyola, and they'll get out-rebounded by Loyola. You go past that, and it also, you take all those outside shots, you're not working the ball inside, you're less likely to get a bunch of fouls, so you lose the free throw battle. That's an area where Tennessee had the advantage statistically over the course of the season. Loyola is not a team that gets the free throw line, but they got more attempts, 16-6, than Tennessee. And you didn't have a rim protector in there. So what does that change? Points in the paint. Tennessee, they won it, but only 22-20. Mark, he wasn't the sole reason for the loss, but anytime you take your 6'11 starter out of the game, it has a trickle-down effect. One of those was you went smaller. At points where you didn't go smaller, you rotated guys around. It left the team shooting a few more threes than they probably should have, than anyone would have liked. But that wasn't the sole reason. What were some of the other reasons that this team kind of got out of sync and threw up threes more than you would expect?
Yeah, well, and to all those points about Kyle Alexander, the other big thing that the coaches talked about was defensively. Kyle Alexander, what he brought. They showed a defensive tape before the game about all the good things that they've been doing defensively, and they realized after the game that Kyle Alexander was in every one of them. And so defensively, it was also a big thing. But the other piece of Loyola was going to switch a lot. They switched everything, and all of a sudden, with Kyle Alexander being out, we have to then go smaller, and so now your mismatches aren't there as much. Your post-up guys aren't posting up on smaller guys. Your guards aren't driving bigger guys when they switch because you've got a lot more guards out there. And so Kyle was a trickle-down effect. Admiral making early threes all of a sudden kind of got us a little three hungry. And then we've got 4 guards out there after Fulkerson didn't give us much. We went small the majority of the game. So you've just got more guys out there shooting threes. And Grant Williams, I just don't think Grant Williams demanded the ball the way an SEC Player of the Year wants to demand the ball. And with Admiral getting his second foul, 11 minutes left in the first half, that's your tough guy. And so then we were just forced to play shooting more threes, quicker in the shot clock, which put more pressure on our defense, and it was just a trickle-down effect. I think it had a lot to do with Kyle.
Your thoughts, guys? Jump in here. You went more outside than inside, and I don't think anybody thinks that's the recipe for Tennessee victory.
Yeah, I had lunch Friday with Al Brown, a former Lady Vols assistant. He's been coaching basketball a long time, and he said, is Kyle Alexander playing? Because if he does not, he didn't like Tennessee's chances. And primarily it's because they didn't have the rim protector, that they wouldn't be able to gamble on defense like they could. They wouldn't be able to work the ball inside. And he thought Alexander's absence would be a huge deal. I think it was. But I'll say this, too. Other than the shot Loyola made at the end of the game, that was the biggest play of the game. The next biggest play of the game was Schofield getting foul number 2. I thought it changed everything for Tennessee.
On a missed layup. Is that the one you're talking about? He missed the layup and then Schofield gets the second one?
Yeah,
when
Bone missed the layup and Schofield got the second foul.
Yeah.
I thought that was the biggest play of the game other than the game-winning
And
shot.
it was right about then when they took the timeout, and the Loyola coach did a good job of, he calmed his guys down too, because they looked like they were all over the joint before that. Your thoughts, guys? I was going to ask Mark, and we'll come back to it. You look at it, Tennessee's known as a defensive team, but I thought they lost that game, and I know you put this on Twitter. I agree with you. I think Tennessee lost it more on the offensive end than they did the defensive end yesterday because of their shot selection and the way they played, and you didn't have Grant Williams at his best, it didn't seem. Your thoughts, offense or defense, do you put more blame on?
I put more on offense. Loyola's a good team. They won a good league. Those are veteran players. That's a good team.
Beat Florida earlier this
Well,
year.
they've only lost once since the first week of January.
And beat Miami 2 days
Now,
before
they got some breaks. Kyle Alexander not playing, Schofield getting in the early foul trouble. They got some breaks. But by and large, and credit to Tennessee for the way they finished, but by and large, I thought Loyola played better. They shot better and probably played a little smarter. They just played a better game of sticking to what they do than Tennessee did.
Well,
exactly.
You got away from what got you there, and that's kind of that inside-out approach. Even if you don't score when you throw it into the post, you can kick it back out. Tennessee didn't do a good enough job when you did get it to Williams, and they kind of swarmed him. There wasn't the extra pass there.
Well, to your question, I think it's clearly offense because they went over 6 minutes without a field goal during one stretch, and then another stretch they went almost 6 minutes without
I
a field
think
goal.
there was a sense of panic both offensively and defensively the way they were playing. I really do.
The football analogy is of when your offense gets 3 and outs consistently, all of a sudden it puts more pressure on your defense. Right. That's what happened with our early 3-point attempts in the offense. We're shooting them quick. Loyola's coming down, run the offense, moving the ball side to side, putting more pressure on our defense, and it led to the outcome.
And you only shoot 6 free throws?
Well, you weren't getting inside.
I know, but that's something you've been getting to the line, an average of 21 times a game, correct? That's a big deficit to make up.
Well, again, that goes back to when you look at this team going into the game, where are their advantages? They get to the free throw line more than Loyola. All right, take Alexander out, play a completely different game. Now all of a sudden you're not getting the free throw line. Let me ask you this, Mark. Grant Williams, as you mentioned earlier, he wasn't fighting for the ball down there as much as you would like to see, I don't think. I don't know if you said that, but you came close to saying that.
You said it.
I'll put it in your mouth whether you said it or not. This is the SEC Player of the Year. Do you think, and he didn't look like it. The last 6-8 games of the year, he didn't look like the same player. In fact, Schofield looked like your better player the last 2 or 3 weeks. He healthy? I mean, we know he has a back issue, but they've kind of blown it off. Do we buy that now? Are we thinking that maybe it was a little more serious than they let on?
Well, it's always
You're
it's most
speculating,
likely
you're not a
more
doctor.
serious than what they've let on because they don't want it to be out there. But to me, it's, if you're out there, you're playing, and you're going to do what you can. If you can't, then you go sit on the sideline. But there's something wasn't right because I feel like against that team, he's got to demand the ball closer to the block. Too many times he was giving up his post position and getting it in the short corner as opposed to just digging down and getting that ball close to the rim.
But don't forget, Tennessee called his number, and he converted that three-point play at the end. And that was Tennessee's only lead in the second half.
And once again, they did show fight. I mean, this team fought its way back at the end. I put they went down 9 with like 3 minutes to go, and I put out the, well, it's been a good year, watch tomorrow tweet. And immediately they make their comeback.
But again, they're the Vanderbilt of the Missouri Valley. What they run is like Vanderbilt. And what he did to Vanderbilt is he posted up on the block, hit guys with his shoulder, and went up and just scored over top. He didn't do that yesterday.
I thought he got tentative. I thought he got a bad call trying to post up once, and I think when that happened, I think he got tentative.
Which was something that plagued him a little bit this season, that if he got the early foul, he played like it.
34 minutes, and he got 3 rebounds, too. So that's suggests maybe he didn't have the eye of the tiger for whatever reason.
And, Jimmy, didn't you point out that he, before the show we were talking, you pointed out something about Grant Williams and his back that might be.
Well, one of the things that I noticed with him, a lot of times when he would go to the sideline toward the second half of the year, he would stand up. He wouldn't go take a seat, and that makes me think there must be some issue with his back. How serious it is, I don't know. As Mark said, that the coaching staff kind of downplayed a little bit, but I do wonder if it was bothering him more than was said.
All right, we got to catch a break. Tennessee had the bracket looks good. All the big boys on your side are kind of gone. It's cleared out. Going through Atlanta. If not now, when? In terms of the Final Four, that's a question I hate, so we'll debate that next. But then also, how will this team be remembered? As the scrappy underdog that won an SEC title, or as choking dogs? Come on back on the Sports Source.